one of the most enigmatic and influential writers of the 20th century, has left a mark on literature that transcends time and borders. Known for his surreal, nightmarish visions of the human condition, Kafka's works explore themes of alienation, existential anxiety, and the struggle for meaning in a seemingly indifferent world. Yet, behind his stories of oppressive bureaucracy and existential dread, lies a man whose own life was shaped by uncertainty, isolation, and a constant tension between his inner world and external reality. Segment 1. Early life. Franz Kafka was born on July 3, 1883, in Prague, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, to a middle-class Jewish family. As the eldest of 6 children, he grew up with 3 sisters. But tragedy struck early. Kafka's childhood was marked by a feeling of isolation. Prague itself was a city divided by language and culture. While he spoke German at home, the world around him was predominantly Czech-speaking. Kafka often felt like an outsider in both the Jewish and Christian communities, as well as between his own desires and the expectations of his family. Intellectually gifted and curious, Kafka was drawn to literature from a young age. He devoured the works of Nietzsche, Dostoevsky, and Flaubert, yet he often found himself torn between his passions and the heavy expectations imposed upon him by his father. Hermann Kafka. Franz's love of learning and literature was in sharp contrast to his father's values of practicality, success, and social standing. Chapter 2. The Father's Shadow. Kafka's relationship with his father, Hermann Kafka, was one of the defining struggles of his life. Hermann was a successful businessman, rising from poverty to build a thriving business, and ruled his family with a fierce and demanding presence. For Kafka, his father's dominance was overpowering and filled him with feelings of inadequacy. Hermann belittled Franz's sensitivity and passion for writing, mocking his dreams and leaving Kafka feeling perpetually judged and unworthy. In 1919, Kafka poured his pain into a piece of writing titled Letter to His Father. In this letter, he addressed the depth of his struggles with his father, describing how Hermann's controlling nature had instilled in him a constant sense of fear and inferiority. Kafka's father never saw the letter. The wounds were so deep that Kafka could never share it. Letters to His Father was only published after both of their deaths. The unsent letter serves as a haunting testament to Kafka's struggle as son's longing for acceptance from a father who could never truly understand him. This letter reveals Kafka's internal battle with his father's influence, an impact so strong that it bled into his writing, shaping the dark and oppressive themes that would come to define his legacy. Chapter 3. Kafka's struggle with love and relationships. Kafka longed for connection, yet his relationships with women were fraught with insecurity and self-doubt. He experienced several intense relationships throughout his life, each of which brought moments of happiness and profound despair. His longest relationship was with Felice Bauer, a woman he proposed to twice but never married. They exchanged hundreds of letters, in which Kafka opened up about his admiration and deep insecurities. Kafka's connection with Milena Jasenska was equally intense. She was a writer and journalist who understood him deeply, and they exchanged over 100 letters, capturing both their affection and Kafka's deep-seated anxieties. Milena's understanding and empathy provided Kafka with a rare sense of comfort. In one letter, he confided in her, "You are the knife I turn inside myself, that is love." His fears and poor health made him doubt his capacity for a lifelong relationship. He described marriage as bondage, fearing that his frail health and psychological burdens would make him a burden to anyone he loved. Though he cared deeply for Felice, Milena, and his final companion, Dora Diamant, he felt unable to fulfill the responsibilities of a partner. Kafka's letters reveal his intense desire for love alongside the crushing self-doubt that prevented him from fully embracing it. His relationships illuminate Kafka's inner conflict of longing for closeness despite the belief that he was unworthy of it. Chapter 4. A Mind in Turmoil. Kafka's Mental Health Struggles. Kafka's mind was a labyrinth of fears, insecurities, and relentless introspection. Today, scholars believe he may have suffered from social anxiety, depression, and a deep-seated inferiority complex. He was plagued by hypochondria, constantly fearing for his physical health and obsessing over potential illnesses. This intense focus on his health compounded his isolation, as he often avoided social gatherings and declined invitations, fearing exposure to illness or exhaustion. Kafka frequently sought medical help for his various ailments, visiting numerous doctors throughout his life. He was known to consult physicians for both physical and mental health issues, often expressing his anxieties and fears during these appointments. His search for answers reflected his deep need to understand and alleviate his suffering. In his diaries, Kafka often described feeling alienated from life and from himself. He was haunted by an unyielding sense of inadequacy, both in his personal life and in his writing. His works frequently explore themes of guilt, isolation, and the terror of the unknown reflections of his own psyche. In one diary entry, he wrote, "I am made of literature. I am nothing else and cannot be anything else." Kafka's hypochondria and self-critical nature drove him to obsess over his physical and mental state, to the point where he considered himself irreparably broken. This relentless self-analysis, combined with his fear of failure, cast a shadow over every aspect of his life. His constant reflection and introspection, although agonizing, became the source of his unique perspective and the fuel for his writing. Chapter 5. Kafka's Career and the Struggles of Daily Life. Kafka's life was divided between his passion for writing and the demands of a day job. After completing his law degree, he began working at the Workers' Accident Insurance Institute. The job provided him with financial security, but little joy. His duties involved evaluating workplace injuries and documenting bureaucratic processes, a mundane occupation that only heightened his feeling of entrapment. His work left him physically and mentally drained, with only the late-night hours available for writing. These hours became a sacred space for Kafka, where he poured his frustrations, fears, and dreams into his stories. Despite the strain of balancing work with his passion, Kafka described his writing as an escape and, paradoxically, a burden, as his perfectionism often kept him from finishing his works. Chapter 6. The Metamorphosis and Kafka's Legacy. Kafka's most famous work, The Metamorphosis, tells the story of Gregor Samsa, a traveling salesman who wakes up one morning transformed into a monstrous insect. This surreal narrative serves as an allegory for Kafka's own feelings of alienation and anxiety. Through Gregor's grotesque transformation, Kafka illustrates the profound disconnect between personal identity and societal expectations. The story reflects Kafka's own struggles with self-worth and societal pressures. Gregor's metamorphosis symbolizes not just a physical change, but also the emotional and psychological toll of living in a world that often feels hostile and unwelcoming. His family's reaction, first shock, then disdain and neglect, mirrors Kafka's own fears of rejection and the unbearable weight of familial expectations. This line encapsulates the isolation Kafka felt throughout his life, highlighting the difficulty in communicating one's inner turmoil to others. The relationship between Gregor and his family also reflects Kafka's own troubled dynamics, particularly with his father, who viewed him as a failure and a burden. Kafka completed the Metamorphosis in 1912, and it was published in 1915. However, during his lifetime, he struggled with the idea of sharing his work. Kafka feared that his work was worthless. He viewed himself as a failure and, just before his death, instructed his friend Max Brod to destroy all of his unpublished manuscripts. This request was driven by Kafka's perfectionism and self-doubt. He felt that he had fallen short of his own high standards. Thankfully, Brod chose to ignore Kafka's wishes, preserving the trial, the castle, and other works that would later make Kafka one of the most celebrated literary figures of the 20th century. Chapter 7. Posthumous Fame. Kafka died, with only 40 years. Kafka's fame blossomed after his death, in 1924 from tuberculosis, an illness he suffered with during the last few years of his life. His close friend Max Brod defied Kafka's instructions to destroy his manuscripts, recognizing the brilliance and significance of Kafka's works. It was Brod who published The Trial, The Castle, and other key texts, bringing Kafka's voice to a world audience. Today, Kafka's name has become synonymous with the surreal and the oppressive. The term Kafkaesque now describes a nightmarish reality of confusion, dread, and bureaucracy attribute to the profound impact of Kafka's unique worldview. Although he never lived to see his success, Kafka's work has touched countless readers and has become a cornerstone of existential and modernist literature. Kafka's life was a struggle between his desire for love and understanding, and his deep-seated fears and insecurities. His legacy is one of tragedy and brilliance, a reminder of the profound complexities of the human soul. Through his words, Kafka achieved the connection he had always longed for, reaching into the minds and hearts of generations who, like him, have felt the weight of existence and the search for meaning. Conclusion. Franz Kafka's life was marked by struggles that many can relate to: feelings of alienation, the weight of familial expectations, and the quest for identity amidst the chaos of existence. His writings invite us into his world, where the absurdities of life intertwine with the deepest fears and desires of the human experience. Though he lived in a time long past, Kafka's reflections on isolation, love, and the search for meaning resonate deeply in our own lives. In recognizing Kafka's tragic life, we also discover the beauty of his contributions to literature, works that challenge, provoke, and inspire. His journey serves as a poignant reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of art to connect us across time and space. Kafka's legacy is not just his words, but the understanding that in our struggles, we are never truly alone. Kafka's life was one of isolation and struggle, yet through his words, he connected with millions.